Before science, art, literature, or written language, there was myth. Oral traditions that are passed on through stories, songs, and dance. Myths have existed in every culture, and their existence continues even to this day. The ancient Greeks had perhaps the wealthiest lexicon of mythology. Their myths flowed together as if they were part of a single grand narrative.
All Greek myths are interconnected, and whenever you tell one, then you inevitably have to tell others that are associated with it.
One of the most celebrated myths from the Greeks was the story of Theseus, the hero who saved Athens by navigating the labyrinth and slaying the Minotaur. But that was only one part of the story. Many threads of fate were woven together, leading to this epic confrontation. What was the meaning of this myth? Are there parts of it that reflect real events from the Bronze Age?
The myth of Theseus, especially as it centers around the idea of the Minotaur, now seems to have more connections with what we know of Bronze Age Greek history.
Clues that were left for us within the myth itself and the archaeological discoveries of the last century reveal that there was a true story behind the myth of the labyrinth. The story of Theseus begins in Athens. Historians have called this city the cradle of Western civilization. In the 5th century BCE, a revolution in art, science, and political thought brought about a golden age in Greece. The products of this golden age have shaped, in some way, almost all of the world's civilizations that exist today.
Well, Theseus was, of course, one of the great heroes of Greek mythology, and particularly tied to Athens. But, interestingly enough, he was not born in Athens. Our main source for the full account of Theseus is a guy named Apollodorus, writing probably in the 2nd century CE.
According to Apollodorus, Theseus was born in Troezen, just across the bay from Athens. His father-to-be was Aegeus, the king of Athens.
Aegeus had no children, no heirs, and he had gone to the oracle of Apollo at Delphi to ask how he might have children, how he might conceive a son.
Seeking guidance at Delphi, the oracle told Aegeus, "Do not loosen the bulging mouth of the wineskin until you have reached the height of Athens, lest you die of grief."
On his way back to Athens, he first visited Corinth, where he met the witch, really, Medea, who had come to Greece from elsewhere. And she helped him interpret the oracle. He then stopped in Troezen, and the king there also divined the meaning of the oracle and wanted the next king of Athens to be his own grandson. So he got Aegeus drunk and tricked him into sleeping with his daughter Aethra. When Aegeus the next day realized what had happened, he knew that Aethra would have a son. And so he gave her tokens, a sword and sandals that would indicate the paternity of the child. He told Aethra not to reveal the paternity of the boy as she raised him until he could prove himself a hero by moving the boulder of his own accord.
Aegeus hid his sword and sandals under a huge boulder. If Theseus were his son, he would have the strength to move the boulder, as the great men of this age were able to do. But some say that Theseus was also the son of a god.
Now, there's also a story that on the same night that Aegeus slept with Aethra, the god Poseidon slept with her as well. And so Theseus, like Heracles and other Greek heroes, in a sense has a double paternity, that he's both the son of Aegeus, king of Athens, but also the son of the god Poseidon.
When Theseus did grow up, he was able to move the boulder and take his father's sword and sandals. Aethra then revealed who he was, and it was then that his journey to Athens and his heroic destiny began. There would be an enemy waiting for Theseus in the court of Aegeus, the king's new wife, Medea.
Medea, after she had, in retaliation on her husband Jason for abandoning her, had murdered her own children, had fled to Aegeus in Athens and was at this time in his court. When Theseus arrived, Medea, being a witch, knew immediately who he was, although of course his father didn't recognize him. And she wanted to get Theseus out of the way, concerned that he would damage her own influence with Aegeus.
Medea also had conceived a son with Aegeus named Medus. Theseus, an heir to the throne of Athens, threatened Medus's claim to the throne.
So she first persuaded Aegeus to send Theseus to battle the terrible bull of Marathon in the northern part of Attica, assuming that the bull would kill Theseus. But Theseus, of course, being a great hero, instead killed the bull.
With her first plan having backfired, Medea tried a more direct approach. She poisoned a drink which she gave to Theseus. At that moment, Aegeus recognized his own sword and sandals and knocked the cup of poison from his own son's hands. The king embraced his son, and Medea was exiled. Theseus had arrived at a time when Athenian influence was relatively weak. Aegeus and his city-state were now subjugated under the heavy influence of the Minoans. Named after their king, Minos, they were said to have lived on the island of modern-day Crete. Traditions say that the Minoans once dominated most of the Mediterranean trade routes with a superior navy. This had made them very wealthy and very aggressive. When the nephews of Aegeus committed a crime against the Minoan royal family, there was pretext for invasion.
Minos' son, Androgeus, had gone to Athens to participate in the Pan-Athenaic Games, the great games celebrated there in honor of the goddess Athena. And in the course of these games, Androgeus had been killed.
Minos was furious to hear of his son's death. The mighty Minoan navy immediately set sail for Athens under his command.
Later Greek historians, such as Thucydides, regarded Minos historically as being the great sea power, the first person in the Greek world to have significant sea power. So Minos, with his huge fleet, invaded Athens, demanding some sort of recompense for the murder of his son. However, there was nothing Aegeus could do. He did not know who had committed the murder. He had no other way of making reparations, and so told Minos, since he had no way of fighting back against this enormous sea power, to set whatever recompense he thought was just for this crime.
The punishment Minos set for the Athenians was harsh. Every 8 years, Athens would have to send 7 of their most beautiful male youths and 7 of their fairest virgins to Crete, where they would be devoured by a monster that was half bull, half man.